Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Les responsables du forum ont eu raison de consacrer un chapitre
I'm very happy that the LH Forum decides to address the issue of farming and food, because of course feeding the planet is a challenge in the beginning of the 21st century. We're going to produce more and better, produce better while respecting the earth, but we will also have to make it possible for more and more people, more and more urban populations to have access to food at a reasonable price, while enabling each part of the chain, and especially the producers, to have a profitable activity. Farming and food production is today under tension because there is an increase in demand, and there is the arrival of new phenomena such as climate change, which generates a high volatility of prices. The question of farming and food production has become very complex, and customers' expectations and the need to preserve natural resources add even more complexity to this. I hope that my speech is going to demonstrate that farming stakeholders are very optimistic and that they think it is possible to take up that challenge. The first positive point is the increase in food demand, based on three factors. First, demographic growth. Secondly, the increase in the the level of living of the people. First of all, let's look at the growing needs. The world population increases at the pace of plus 1 billion every 15 years. So from 7 billion mouths to feed today, we are going to go up to 9.5 in 2050. The average human consumes 340 kilos of cereal equivalent every year, cereal being the basic food for many countries. In order to simply maintain the current levels of consumption, we will have to produce 850 million tons of cereals, more than we do today in 2050, which is about twice as much as the current cereal production of the US. If you add the 1 million people who suffer from malnutrition throughout the planet, it means that we'll have to produce even more. Producing more is therefore a need for mankind and in order to fulfill the elementary needs of the world's population. On top of that, the increase in demand comes along with an increase for animal protein. Every time a population improves its life, every time the populations migrate from the countryside to the city, they want to consume more meat, especially white meat, that would be poultry and or pork. This is why we have increasing needs in cereals. And this is particularly true in China, India and Brazil, which actually use up 50% of the soy consumption today, and this is why the plant that we grow the most throughout the world is corn, which is a very productive cereal. Now, on top of that, we have to integrate changes in terms of quality. Consumers tend to buy more and more services when they buy food products. They want quality, they want healthy, they want friendly, they want environment preservation. Food products are processed and packaged in a more elaborate way. We now have up to 4 processing cycles, and of course, people also want these products to be traceable. Everywhere in the world, people tend to eat more and more outside of their homes, restaurants, school cafeterias or canteens, or in hospitals or in company restaurants, accounting for 30% of our meals today. That's in developed countries. And on top of that, we no longer have conventional meals where everybody sits around a table. The way to eat is becoming multicultural. Hamburgers from Germany, kebabs from the Middle East, Italian pizzas, Japanese sushis have crossed all borders and are now found everywhere in the world, making up the top 5 of world food. Now, there are also alternative modes of consumption, which have started to emerge, and I'm happy. You know, you've got slow food, you've got the AMAP, which will be presented to you later, which are local products bought by local people, and you have the locavore system. Farmers have a very important role to play in the food chain in terms of innovation, in order to offer us a diverse food products which meet different expectations, different ways of life. The third element is urbanization. The UN announces that urban population will be more than 60% by 2030, 60% of the world population. It is already 50% now, which means that the city populations are very dependent on outside supply. It's not a problem in rich countries, but it's more a problem in emerging or developing countries that where 2 out of 3 city dwellers will be found in 2050. People living in cities are more vulnerable than people living in the countryside when it comes to food supply, because there isn't much solidarity in the cities. And of course you have to spend money for housing and for transportation, and this comes into competition with the money that you might spend for food. In some areas where there aren't many cereals grown, Asia or Africa, of course it will mean that these countries will have to import cereals, and that's going to be a problem in terms of food safety, and this might even generate some political upheaval. Let's look at the tensions that we are faced with. The most obvious sign of this is the volatility of prices for sugar, coffee, corn, or maize, for example, but also milk. And why do we see this? And how is this taking place? Well, not so long ago, we saw this image of the hunger riots in some countries. Remember, in January 2007, it happened for the first time, or it reappeared for the first time in Mexico. About 100,000 Mexicans marched on the streets to protest against the increase of the price of their tortilla, which increased by more than 40% due to a booming in the price of corn in the US. In March 2008, in Rabat, Morocco, there were also street protests and confrontations with the police that actually led to the death of several people. And then the following year it was in Egypt. And in our collective memory of well-fed Westerners, this really reminds us of something which took place a very long time ago, but which was very painful. This doesn't mean that we believe that everybody was well-fed everywhere else in the world, but seeing urban populations protest violently against the increase in bread prices was very surprising to us. In France, we have a very different context, but in 2008, consumers' associations protested against the increase of some basic food products such as pasta, butter, or milk, and they thought that this had very negative consequences for the most underprivileged people. The price of food products were never as volatile as they are today. Plus 200% for wheat between June 2006 and September 2007, and then the following year it dropped by 120%. Who can stand such price variations? Not the farmers, of course, whether they are growers, cereal growers, or breeders, and they needed to feed their cattle. And of course, the industrial companies, food processing companies cannot, of course, have the consumers pay this price, and the consumers, of course, cannot pay this price. So this is negative for everybody along the food chain. Let's look at the reasons for that. The root causes for price volatility were documented in many, many reports. Farming products have to be volatile because the demand is usually increasing and the offer is variable and unpredictable because of climate conditions. But of course there have been some factors which were pointed at, and one of those is regulatory policies to regulate the markets under the pressure of the World Trade Organization. In Europe, we have seen the Common Agricultural Policy, which has given up a certain number of processes, and also the stocks have gone down, and we have reached a historical low in 2008 or in 2012. We only had 2 months of stock stock available in case something bad happened. And so there was not even enough inventory to be able to regulate the market. Political choices, embargo, for example, as Russia did, also contributed to increasing the pressure on prices. The second factor, there's been an increase in violent and recurrent climate events. Drought in the US, fires in Russia, freezing events in Ukraine. Of course, all these generate an increase in cereal prices everywhere on the planet. And then the farming markets also are becoming more and more financial because investment funds took the advantage of those tensions on prices in order to invest on the markets, which have become a safe haven after the subprime crisis and in the context of international recession. Today, the markets are at the mercy of all kinds of shocks. And these tensions come on top of the structural unbalance between a regular offer and a demand which is increasing. There are solutions. What are they? The first solution is that we have to rethink regulation policies. NGOs say that, the FAO says that, north to south, all farmers' organizations say that. The regulation must be global. It was discussed during the G20 meeting. It was actually impulsed by the French government, and in June 2011 there was a proposal at the Cannes summit. Then we also need to look at the strategic inventory. Henry Kissinger talked about the green power at the time, and we need to rethink this again. We need to improve the knowledge. When there is speculation, very often it's based on the fear to lack. And we need to know what the production and what the level of stock is in countries in order to minimize speculation, in order to have a better reliability. And despite the modern means that we have at our disposal, we still don't know how much is kept, for example, by China in terms of cereals and farming materials. Now, at the end of the G20, there was the implementation of AMIS, Agricultural Market Information System. This is a tool which unfortunately is not really working. It is there, and now our decision makers need to make it work. What has to be done also is to curb speculation on food products. The US have tried to do this, but this was not perfect. We need to promote this at a global level. There should be only limited speculation on food raw materials, and there should not be purely speculative behaviors on the side of regular commercial behaviors. Then another solution is to produce more and better. Let's say this. The first regulation would be an increase in production everywhere in the world in order to meet the increasing demand. Basically, we can say that there are two solutions in order to increase farming production. We need to increase the surface areas which are cultivated, and we need to increase the yield. In terms of surface area, on many continents, the idea is to fight against the artificialization of land. And over the past 20 years in France, 90,000 hectares disappear every year under concrete or tar macadam. And sometimes it's the best plots of land which are taken away from farming. On the whole planet, there was only a 3% increase of cultivated area, farmland, over the next 10 years. In China, they have 22% of the world population on only 7% with only 7% of farming land. This is why China is today trying to find new areas for production, especially in Africa. The increase in production can mostly come from a better yield, whether you're looking at plants or animal production, meaning that farming must rely on research and innovation, variety selection, genetics, better systems and resilient systems in order to have a more sustainable and productive farming. The example of seeds is very interesting in that respect, because you can have earlier varieties or varieties that resist frost or that resist drought, and anyway you can obtain varieties that will enable you to have a better production. The Common Agricultural Policy goes into the direction of an increased productivity while respecting the environment. The recent debates of the environmental conference in France about the environmental transition will have to generate some positive incentive systems in order to face that challenge. Producing more, producing better are a solution, but there's this mass production, and there are a certain number of demands of a higher quality, which are of course more restricted, but which also have to be taken into consideration in France and in Europe. People want local products. People want high-quality products. In France, 1/3 of the farms produce with an official quality certification, and they sell their products like this. We need to continue doing this. Food products must be spotless, blameless in terms of health claims, in terms of pesticides. We need to make sure that that our products are absolutely clean. The episode of Escherichia coli on organic soy in Germany had tragic consequences, especially for some vegetable producers who never actually recovered from that, but it was also very damageable on the consumer's trust. And it was the case again with the horse gate. Every time there is an incident, of course, it is very visible in the media, and we see that every time such a thing happens, it takes weeks to recover the full trust from consumers. And then there is one thing that I have to mention, because it is very important for us as a producer. It is the question of waste. Of course, we need to produce more, but we mostly need to waste less. The FAO produced very interesting figures. Every year, 1.3 billion tons of food is lost or wasted or thrown away, which is 1/3 of all the food produced in the world. In the north, we waste because of negligence, because we have to throw away a lot of products. Each French person throws away as much as 20 kilos of food per year, 7 kilos of which are still perfectly packaged. So that's a loss of 400 euros per year and per household. But in southern countries, this is most due to problems in organization, logistics, storage, transportation, so that the crops are actually lost on the fields. So we need to help them and support them in order to avoid this waste, which is very damageable for producers. The FAO has decided that this one of its battles to lead in the next few years, and FNSEA, my organization, also supports this, because for us it is really a shame to throw away these food products which have some value. So we will be present on October 16th for the first National Day of Fighting Against Food Waste that is going to be organized in France. As a conclusion, and because I realize that I don't have much time left, I would like to say that the challenge that lies ahead of us is huge. We have to produce enough food to fulfill the needs of all human beings in terms of both quality and quantity in a sustainable way. Farmers everywhere on the planet are willing to take up this challenge and want to remain positive. France and Europe are in a very good position because of our situation, our geographical situation, because we have a temperate climate. We have not had those climate incidents which have been happening in other countries. And also France is very much attached to food, to eating well and to living well. This is one of our characteristics. The importance of farming in our country mirrors the importance that food has to French people. It's a real luck that we have, and of course it's very positive. However, let us not be naive. Farming is an economic activity and competition is fierce. Faced with European and international competition, a lot of countries actually want to be present on all the markets. This is why we need to have policies to support the farmers and producers in order to help them work more efficiently. The authorities have understood this and they are very supportive of agricultural policies. Now, we also want to make sure that competition is fair, because when you have products coming into the country which are made with entrants, for example, which are not not approved in our country, or when other European countries actually dump their products just because their salaries are much lower or because they don't pay the workers who work for them. Well, this is a danger for French farmers. So you see that food and meeting all the needs of the people also has a lot to do with societal issues. Wherever you're looking at, it's a whole culture which has to be preserved and to prevail. We are optimistic, however, because we know that the French government was always very supportive of French farming. Farming is 12.4 billion euros of positive in the commercial balance, in the trade balance of the country, which is 70 billion euros in deficit, right? So farming is 14% of the French jobs, important when we have a very high unemployment rate in our country, 70,000 jobs which are vacant. We are hiring, and we want you to be aware of this. And then farming is also very much connected to French cuisine and gastronomy. We are very proud of this, and we want to make sure that we preserve this excellence. And thank you for your attention.